Hello, this is a Claiborne LSAT logic games video. What we're going to do here is focus on the setup of a standard sequencing logic game, a strict sequencing game to be specific, and to show you the power of what we call the decision tree process, in which we generate the diagrams in advance, the game boards that you'll need, so that you can see that play out in the question. So this, as the video indicates, is from PrepTest 87.2. So you want to have that in front of you here. We are observant to LSAC's copyright, so I'm not even going to quote exact parts or not read out the whole game and the rules to you. But so you want to have 87 and the second logic game in front of you. And then let's go and see what it presents to us. We, of course, have what I would call a strict sequencing game here. And I call it that because unlike loose sequencing, the rules are strict. That is, they're more restricted. They give you more detail than simply how the players or the elements are related to each other. So whether you call this ordering or linear, we tend to use the language of sequencing with the idea of strict, bringing together the concept that there is more restriction here and therefore more inferences, right? That's an important key in this case. All right, so we've got 1 through 5 here. I'm drawing this out on the Zoom whiteboard. You can do it a lot faster on your own page, but what I want you to see here is my thought process kind of unfolding as I draw out the game. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the block that's available to us, because nothing is more powerful in an LSAT logic game than a block of elements or players. That is, in the case of sequencing, 2 players that must be immediately next to each other. In this case, that's the fast food and the sportswear commercials. Now, granted, it doesn't say in which order those 2 are, but what we're going to do is start the block at the far left and generate all the possibilities around that. And then we're going to gradually move it to the far right. This is what you always want to do if you encounter a block on a sequencing game. Don't just say, oh, well, that's nice. Here are the places that it could go relative to the other players. No, put it in there. Establish a spot for it on the far left and move it to the far right to generate all the ways that the game can be arranged. Now, this little handle that I've driven here just indicates that fast food and sportswear could go in either direction. All right, now, once we've locked those in, we have the other rules to take into account. We have P before G, and we also know that the S is before the T, the truck in this case, which obviously it is if S is in this position, but that will be more relevant when we come to later. So really the only thing that remains for this first game board is that P is before G. Now again, here's a crucial inflection point. Most logic games test takers would just write down, okay, P before G, write it out to the side. But why not explore the limited possibilities for the ways that P could be before G? There's only 3 ways that can happen in this scenario. P and G are either 3 and 4, or they're 3 and 5, or they're 4 and 5. There's literally nothing else that can happen, again, assuming that the FS/SF block is in one of the first 2 positions. Right, now, notice that in all of these cases, the T falls into place because there's only one place left. It's 5th, and then it's 4th, and then it's 3rd. And we have generated 3 possibilities for how the game can actually play out, not hypothetically, but concretely, with the only variability being that handle on number 1 and 2, the possibility that F and S, could change places. All right, now that might seem like we're going to get a lot of game boards here, but there's already hints that that's not the case, chiefly the fact that when we move F and S across, they have to still be before T, so they can't go all the way to the right. And as they move across, they're going to limit T's position. In other words, T here can only be 4 or 5. Right, now notice, think about P and G here. Well, we then know that that P, they could be 1 and 4 or 1 and 5 or 4 and 5, but that would crowd out T. So it's never going to be the case that P and G are 4 and 5 in this scenario, where F and S are 2 and 3. We have to find a place for T after the FS block. Now notice that as long as G is after P, as it's supposed to be, and as it is here in this example, it doesn't matter whether G or T come first. P is before G, S is before T. We're good to go. And that's actually the only way that this scenario can play out if F and S are in 2 and 3. So you may be seeing already that we're really only going to need one more game board here, because putting FS in 3, 4 is going to force T as far right as it can possibly go. And therefore, there's no more outcomes. P and G, P before G, follow naturally or fall naturally into place. And we have our fifth example. In only 5 examples, with a little bit of variability with handles, we have captured exhaustively everything that can happen in this game. So in these videos, we actually are just going to simply set up logic games for you. We're not going to go through the questions because particularly in this kind of situation that we would call sort of a high yield situation, the questions fall like dominoes for the most part. You might still have to work out 1 or 2 possibilities, but with this kind of mastery of what's happening in the game, it's almost impossible for them to stump you unless you simply misread something. So in 5 examples, we've got the exhaustive reality of what can happen in this game. It's a beautiful setup. It's a high yield game produced by a kind of a decision tree process of thinking. That is it here, or is it here, or is it here? We go through different branches of the tree and we produce these game boards as a result. It's an incredibly powerful way to approach the logic game section. And I hope this video has helped you see exactly how powerful it can be and how it might apply to the questions in this particular game.